Welcome, everybody, to Auburn's Dean's Lecture with Dr. Lakisha Lockhart. It's the first of the fall 2025, and I'm so excited about this. A little bit of how this is going to go. I'm going to do a little welcome introduction framing, and then we're going to play because her book is on play. But let me start with Auburn is a 10-generation institution. That means for 200 years, we've been equipping leaders to engage this beautiful and broken world. Our mission is to build community, bridge divides, pursue justice, and heal this world. And these Dean's Lectures are a part of that legacy. We've been doing lectures for a long time, and this series in particular has been focused on healing. How do we heal this world and in these trying times? This comes out of our Center for Storytelling and Narrative Change. It's in a longer series where we've had folks talk about what's happening in Gaza to the 30th, marking the 30th anniversary of the Rwanda genocide, to Pulitzer Prize and Oscar-nominated storytellers in Tommy Orange and Julian Brave Noisecat, talking about how do we heal after the violence caused to Indigenous communities here in the United States. So we've really tried to do our best in Center for Storytelling and Narrative Change to provide resources and stories that actually model what healing looks like. How do we do this work well? I want to tell you a little about what's coming up as well at the top of this. So let me make sure I get the people right who we have in the Dean's Lectures. I'm really excited because we're going to be welcoming scholars and storytellers. So first is next month will be Stephanie Crumpton, whose book, We Gonna Be All Right, Resistance and Healing in Black Movement Spaces, which is just out. She'll be in October. We have Caitlin Curtis, a wonderful relative, whose book, Everything is a Story, Reclaiming the Power of Stories to Heal and Shape Our Lives, which is just dropped this month. Our very own Shannon Daly Harris, the Associate Dean, whose book, Just Love Story Bible, also just launched this month. She'll be coming up in November. And we have Kat Armas, Liturgies for Resisting Empire, Seeking Community, Belonging, and Peace in a Dehumanizing World. That also just dropped. So you can find out more about all of these events by subscribing to our Eventbrite or our newsletter. But I hope you're noticing we got some of the most recent scholarship on storytelling and healing and how those things go together. And I'm excited about this fall. I have one more invitation for this group and for anyone who watches this lecture after, that if you're curious about healing-centered leadership and what that means, how to gather together as a community of leaders who are thinking about how do we heal this world, heal your community, or heal yourselves, I'm inviting you to join our president, Reverend Dr. Emmon Jordan Simpson, who's on this call. And I will be hosting a Lead with Love monthly call. That goes from October to May of next year. It'll be the same time every Tuesday, first Tuesday of every month. We'll host a conversation about that. But today, we're gathered to hear from Lakisha Lockhart, Dr. Lakisha Lockhart, who's Associate Professor of Christian Education at Union Presbyterian Seminary. Dr. Lockhart has authored numerous publications and book chapters, and I'm going to just read off some titles here. United Against Racism, Enfleshing Catechesis Through Embodied Space, Let's Dance. I hope that's not anything we're going to do because I'm a bad dancer. No one wants that recorded. My Wildest Dream to My Black Son. She was featured in the Just Womanist series for the Katie Cannon Center for Womanist Leadership. She's been recognized as Millennial Womanist to Watch. She's been recognized by Claflin University and won the Warren Innovation Grant from the Religious Education Association. Her recent anthologies, Theopoetics in Color and Nobody's Perfect, both just came out within the last year, are amazing texts, are used across theological education, and have incredible authors from across sectors and communities that I encourage everyone to pick up those books. But today we are here to talk about her solo authored book that just dropped this year, Doing Theological Double Dutch, a Womanist Pedagogy, a play, which if you have registered, we're shipping you a copy of this book. So please join me, let's wave our hands, celebrating, welcome Dr. Lockhart to this Dean's Lecture. And yeah, say something. You gotta let's hear your voice.
Thank you. I mean, I was just so excited. I was like, I love it. Such a great introduction. And I'm like, thank you. I'm excited to be here.
Typically on these Dean's lectures, I would do a practice. I would do a grounding practice that centers us in the space. But I feel really lucky that one of the people I learned most from in pedagogy and play is with us. So Dr. Lockhart's going to lead us in a practice to kick off this Dean's lecture.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. Before I do my practice, I feel like I have to shout out my mom is on this call, and she's not showing her face, but Barbara Hannah, we see you. So feel free to join in and feel free to participate, Mom. I see you secretly loving me through that through being here, and I just want to say, hey, I appreciate you. I'm so excited to see faces that I know and some that I don't. Hello, welcome. And I'm excited to get us started. So we're going to start by playing. I feel like I do this in my classes. We jump in. And so I won't have us dancing right now. That maybe there might be later. But for right now, in true kind of womanist play fashion, the first place we start is with self. Right? We're thinking about this internal police. The first womanist tenet is radical subjectivity. I call it embracing self, thinking about identity, who we are, how we've formed, how we are who we are. So that's what I want to invite us to first, is to do a creative selfie. So you can do this in a couple ways. I'm going to let you, if you want to take a cool picture of yourself, you can. If you wanted to put your body in a particular pose or image, you can. If you happen to have some cool things around you, I randomly have a pair of socks because my feet get cold. So whatever you might have around you, you can curate something, but something that depicts who you are right here, right now, in this moment. Not yesterday, not today, not after, but right here, right now, where you are. So go ahead, find some things, get in a position, creative selfie, full of reflection of who you are, agency in this moment. Okay, now I feel like I have to do it mine too with what I have around me. Let's see. I believe in you. You can do this. We're actually creating right now. I believe we have been created by a creative creator to create. You have it in you and it will be wonderful. Don't doubt it. Don't question it. Okay, I see mugs. Ooh, I see a pretty mug. Okay, I see another one. Okay. Oh, Elsie, I can't see what's in front of your face. Oh, ooh. Okay, I see Stevie Wonder. That feels right. That just feels right. I feel like I have how I feel right now. Just a person with a sock. That feels right? Let's see, Sandy, is that gum? I can't, or is that a photo? Oh, I see. Is it waves? Ooh, beautiful, beautiful. And then I see, let's see, I see Shannon with a mug. Anyone else want to show anything? I saw Patrick Stevie Wonder. You see my person with their little sock covering. Lovely. So it is beautiful to think about who we are in these moments and how that shifts and changes as it should. And just to that creativity and thinking about where we are, giving yourself time and energy to think about you and your identity and where you start is always the first and best place to start. So thank you for starting with a little play. And I hope whatever energy you just brought with your mug, that we take for the rest of this conversation. So feel free to put things in the chat, whatever that reminded you of, if that was a memory or something you want us to know about you that you want to drop in the chat, feel free. But thank you for having a creative selfie with us temporarily. And I didn't even make you dance. You're welcome, Patrick.
I love it. Thank you for the creative selfie. Yeah, absolutely. And maybe we can hold your objects in a creative selfie that at the end of this, we can take a group photo with our selfies if we can do that. Okay, Dr. Lockhart, I got to talk to you about your book. I'm so excited about it. I was excited to read it. And I want to start us with this question with your title, the Doing Double Dutch. It's a simple question. Why am I so bad at it? No, I'm just joking. I'm going to ask you a substantial substantial question. But you talk about these two ropes that are used in the way that we go about play. You have the one rope that is the systems that are the violent systems that are plaguing many of us. And then you have that second rope, the womanist rope.
Mm-hmm.
And your response to this is that you say, quote, self-identify, or to be able to self-identify and claiming or reclaiming one's true self and agency in the world comes with that second rope. That's why the womanist play is so necessary. But this, when I was reading this, I was so excited about that because that to me is, a lot of literature. That's, me self-identifying. And yet you pushed me a little bit farther than I was ready for. Many many folks are ready for. You say, quote, "This includes hard conscious raising questions while looking at our history and our ancestry." So you do this work that isn't just about me reclaiming myself, but you're right at the jump of this book. You're claiming that play has to go deeper into our ancestral roots. Can you tell me a little bit about Double Dutch and how that metaphor plays with healing over generations?
Yeah, thank you for that. I have to start that off because for me that's my foundation is realizing that my play comes from my ancestry, from my mom, from my grandma, from spaces where I have been afforded the opportunity to play, to be free, to do these things. So for me, that's where it stemmed from me, and I knew that kind of had to be the start for my book because it wasn't just the double dutch in the academy, and so I call the systems rope the tightrope. It felt right for the name of that rope. Because I experienced it not only in the academy where I'm at now, where I'm teaching, but even, growing up, you have all of these systems that, kind of don't want you to play or that want to take it away or that want to shift how you look or shift all of these things. And so for me, it's that play on double dutch of, yes, it can be so confining. And yet, um, I remember finding so much hope and space when I was doing double dutch, when I was out there playing. That's when I was my freest. That's when I was learning about who I was. I was making meaning of the world. I was figuring out, oh, I might not want to cheat doing this, or I'm going to try it this way this time, or that person cheated and now I feel some kind of way about them. So now I'm learning about community. I'm learning about friends. I'm learning about who I want to be and how I want to show up in the world and how others are going to show up in the world and how I want to meet and be in relationship with that. And so for me, it was learning so much. And then in the midst of that, I'm learning about myself and how I am who I am and who were my parents and who were their parents. And like this very richness, right? I feel like growing up, I remember just because I'm a little more fair and my hair is curly, I remember kids in school being like, "Oh, well, are you mixed? Are you biracial? Are you this?" And my response was like, "Well, I'm black." Like that was my response. But then I was talking to my parents and learning about my history on my father's side, on my mother's side, this beautiful, rich legacy that I had, a great great grandmother who was Osage Indian, right? And realizing all of this part of who I am, but I needed to learn that history so that I could embrace who I was, realizing all of the spaces that maybe people used as play, but how they had to also use that as protection, how that was also a place of sacredness, how that was also something they had to covet because they didn't get those opportunities of safety. And so it helps me cherish it and hold on to it and be able to speak from it as a place of we can now use that as a place to heal so many things because we have that lineage already within us. We have so much of this rich history that we can pull from and that we can use to heal, to grow, to move forward, to push, to question, to ask and to raise these things because so much of this has already been done and we're bringing it with us if we choose to, right? But I just think we just need to reclaim that beautiful space of healing, of agency, of what maybe wasn't that our ancestors had, but that we can now have and reclaim in different ways. So yeah, so I was doing a play on a lot of things, and yeah, I definitely hit pretty hard out of the gate.
I mean, think about that even that notion that the play would be your entry point for doing that deeper ancestral work. And I want you to talk a little bit about using, I mean, I'm even thinking of the double dutch as a theological metaphor in the academy and popular, the way we talk about healing and the way we talk about play. It's not something I was taught. We were taught Robert Frost. I mean, some other system of way of thinking theologically. And you brought your people, you brought what brought you joy, you brought your ancestors into the book. Talk a little bit about that choice to use that as like this is what I'm going to center on. Why this?
Well, so for me, it's what has been life-giving for me. And I talk about a moment in the book. I mean, there have been many moments in my life, but I talk about a moment in the book in particular where I experienced just some extreme racism. I mean, moments of just sexism, racism, very belittling, very dehumanizing. And for me, it was that play that kind of brings me back. And it was play that I learned growing up. It was play. I mean, my sisters and I played sports together. We grew up with softball and volleyball, and we danced. I was a Zumba instructor. I mean, it was the movement. It was, even at church, I was on the praise dance team. My mom would always, and, again, shout out to my mama. She would take me back and forth to all these, rehearsals, all of these things that I wanted to do and to be a part of. And I was fortunate enough to have this space to move, to dream. And that was for me where I learned how to communicate with God. That was for me when I would have moments of self-doubt or moments where I wasn't sure. it was the play that was always rejuvenating for me. It was the play. So play was the starting point for this book because play was the starting point for me. Play is the thing that I come back to. It's this communication that I have with the divine when I feel like I am missing the mark, or even now when I'm like, some days I'm like, man, I was a horrible parent today. I just need to do better. And I'm just like, you know what? Let me just go color for a minute. Let me go and just dance. Let me go be out in nature. Let me like it's that is something that continues to bring me back to who I know I've been created to be, just at a very human level of making meaning in who I am. And so that had to be my starting point, right? I had to bring my people, because that's what made me me. And I felt like that would also be something other people might be able to relate to, that you had this at some point. You probably had this in your beginning. I mean, you know, Homo ludens, humans who play, that's who we are. Like just at a very beginning level, I'm sure you played, right? I mean, just even as a baby, we automatically play because that's just what we do. That's who we are. We're doing that at such a level. And just as we've grown, we've let it go. Other things have become more important. The society tells us it's not okay. So I'm just getting us to just reclaim that, bring it back. You had it. It was there from people that created that space for you, and we can bring some of that. So I had to bring that into the writing with play. And because I wanted to reclaim play for myself because it's been so wonderful for me. But I wanted to say that, yes, I'm playing. Yes, it's wonderful. And I take play seriously too, because it's important and we need it to be full, whole well-beings. And I don't think we take that seriously enough as someone in the academy, right? I've often, they'll see it as frivolous, play is not important. And I'm like, no, I'm going to make it a point that we're on play and it deserves its whole book by itself to talk about it because it's that important. We're bringing our people, but we're also going to talk about what play can do for us, how much we need it, and how serious it can be at the same time while it is still playful, but the seriousness of needing it and using it and doing it to be better, to help us flourish.
I mean, you didn't just bring play in that like generic play. You brought a particular type of play in this book, which I think was necessary, as I think about for educators, for those in the church or in faith communities. You redefine play in ways that stems out of womanism. I want to quote you back here that you say, I propose that part of the story, experience, and culture of Black women are womanish modes of play that begin in childhood and continue into adulthood. You claim that we may not know about Black women's approach to play because of a couple of reasons. One, that it may be sacred, that it was sacred, something kept within Black women's communities. You say the another reason might be that play leaves open this fear to not be taken serious, which you just kind of mentioned. Like, if I'm being playful, I must not be working hard enough.
Mhm.
And I'm curious, because of these things, because you've brought in so much research and insight into what play can be redefined as. I'm curious at how you see play being healing in this case, because from when I read those two reasons why Black women talk about play, I hear that there's something freeing, there's some freedom, there's some healing that comes through a practice of play. So tell me a little bit about how that healing plays into this.
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And so for me, again, I try to have a very expansive definition of play just because womanism is very expansive, right? It includes so much about who we are and the intentionality and what we bring to it. And for Black women, as I mentioned, and I name those two because I experienced them, right? There was a place where I'm like, oh, my play is sacred. I need to keep it safe, because when I'm on that spades table and I demolish people, I mean, it's a beautiful thing. It's just a glorious moment, right? I want to hold that with me so that, people that are coming next won't know. No, but those are beautiful moments and beautiful memories, right? And I know that there's so much of the world that wants to take and destroy that. And so there's a part of me that's like, oh, I need to hold on to these beautiful sacred memories because like this is my me space. This is me. And then again, being in the academy, if you talk about play, it's this kind of automatic. I feel like we've gotten a little better recently, but it's usually this automatic, oh, that's not serious. Oh, that's frivolous. That's this. And then I'm just like, okay, well, if we actually look at studies that you're actually more productive, that you're actually more creative problem solvers, that actually neurologically you create new neural pathways in your brain when you actually play and move your body, right? You actually need that to move, to do things, right? When you're even those that say they don't play, literally, if you're writing and creating, you're still having that physiological and neurological connection. You're actually still playing with ideas and thoughts, and you're gonna have to get up and move at some point. And now you got new ideas that have come because you've moved your body. And so for me, all of this is so deeply connected. And I feel like it's such a place of healing because especially for Black women, I feel like so often they want us, I feel like Willie Jennings talks a lot about fragmentation. And I feel like so often they want us to be fragmented. They want us to be in pieces. They want us, we just want your mind. We want your vertical jump here. We want this. We want, what you might be able to offer us in all these other ways, but nothing else, right? Just think about, how many athletes, just talk about basketball. Don't talk about justice. Don't talk about anything else. Just stick to the game. We're more than just the game, right? But the game is also part of what helps us heal because that's how we make sense of the world. That's how we come to know who is for us and who isn't. That's how we come to know who my community is. And it allows us the physiological healing, right? I'm sure we might be thinking about the book Body Keeps the Score. When we're doing things, all the trauma that we've experienced, especially those in Black and brown bodies, we have very visceral traumas. Some of it has been generational traumas living in the very marrow of our bones. And so some of this is a very physiological healing, right? They have play therapy for a reason, right? Like a lot of this is very physiological, mental healing that can happen when we work through things, when we use play as a tool, as an outlet, as a way of expression to be in the world and to heal in the world. And so for me, because I could be scared, because I was fearful, for me, offering this place to say, I can heal and find freedom in this. And not only that, but others can learn and provide it to others too. I was like very much on my Fannie Lou Hamer, like I'm not free until we all get free. So let's all get free together. Like if I can do this, so can you. It might be a particular experience, but this is important for the universal of who we are in this world that we can all learn and benefit from and heal from because we all experience things in our body. We all experience things in these ways and how we can use to move and heal, especially now that we're learning more about neurodiversity, we're learning about more about disabilities and being differently abled. This is essential, I think, work to be able to do. And so it's healing for Black women, for a myriad, right, of folks if we start to look broader. So absolutely, I think it's healing. And that's definitely where I was going with some of that play.
I mean, so when you offer in this definition of play and you're redefining the metaphor, the literature around this, one of the other things that you do that surprised me in the book, like in a beautiful, wonderful way that I mean, it was like my own sort of vocational gut check. That I was thinking, I'm reading a book about play. You've set up this metaphor. You've done this deep dive into what play can and should be. And then when you start talking about like when and where it happens, and you redefine play as when it happens, and then I see a list that includes like staff meetings, my day-to-day work. I'm going to throw an email. You didn't say email, but I'm going to throw an email. Like you redefine play across like from basically the whole span of the day and say like really nothing's off the table to be redefined as part of play. Tell us a little bit about that move. I mean, and also, I mean, if you can, where you're making this move is all of your chapter headings say, does mother play? Or so like you've made a very intentional intergenerational challenge to like time and space. And I'm curious about that. Tell us about play and when it happens.
So I'm also a religious educator, practical theologian. And so for me, even from a young age, for me, everything teaches. Everything teaches from what we have on the walls to what we say, to what we wear, to what we do. Everything is teaching us something about representation, about how we move through the world. And so for me, when I'm thinking about how I'm defining play and how I want to be expansive, there has to be space for all of us. That is the womanist tenet. The flourishing of all people, of all communities. So play can't just be this one thing. There has to be space for all of us to find ourselves in this play wherever we may find ourselves. And for me, it's about how we bring that intentionality of the, for epistemological, ontological, the knowing, the being, the making meaning to what we're doing, right? How do we bring that kind of energy to what we're doing? How do we make that? So there are staff meetings, yes. And sometimes I'll do red light, green light at a staff meeting, right? Like, so what does that mean and look like? And how does that now change what we're doing? I was actually doing a faculty retreat and they actually brought me to play intentionally for a faculty retreat, which was really, really cool and fun. But part of what we also did, we played Jenga, we did blocks. And in the building, we're talking about what they're building at their institution, what they're building in their departments. And now they have language, right? For the things that might need to be fixed or worked on. So it doesn't have to get personal. It doesn't have to say who did what, but now we have this playful language that we know that we can now use, right? So we played when the stakes were a little bit lower. So now when we're having high risk conversations, we can go back to these examples. So play just is this beautiful vehicle and outlet that allows us to do that. And so it had to be an expansive way to think about play. Yeah, play can be your morning coffee if that's the intentionality you bring to it, right? Play can be our walk. I think someone talked about their selfie was outside walking. Absolutely. We can find it in all of these spaces because we've all been created differently. So what is playful for me might be different to be playful for you. And there is space enough for all of us to have play, to be playful, and to find those moments. And sometimes it means we need to be intentional and bring some of that back. I make assignments all the time. I make my students cook and eat, and those are playful assignments. I make them do all kinds of things that they didn't realize were play at first. And then they find out, oh, that was playful. But it's what we bring to it as well. And I believe the expansiveness really aligns with a lot of what womanism is and what we represent in the world as womanists, but also I think we just need it as people in the world, right? I talk a lot about wanting to be able to play across differences. And there are a lot of division and differences in the world right now, right? But play, I don't need your job title. I don't need to know. We can just play together, right, in this space, expansively. And I think that's beautiful, but we're also learning. I talk about how sometimes we'll have a game that we learned and maybe we have different words to it, like Miss Mary Mac, or like we have just different words, but it's a similar game pattern. And so now we're learning about cultures. So now I'm learning about you and you're learning about me. And so it's just this beautiful way that we can do so much with play, that it should be expansive. And so that is why my definition is expansive, because it's the only thing that would fit what I wanted to do. And I know some will wrestle and say that it needs to be more refined, but no, I don't think it does. I think that just makes it more limiting, and that's part of the problem.
I mean, that more expansive notion gets me to the question of, if you just answer kind of like the when and where play gets to happen and what the womanist approach to play being expansive like that, I am curious about how you think about who gets to play and what are the rules for play when they show up. I mean, I'm thinking of the ways that the book invites me to see myself as kind of leader, that if you were to invite us to dance and all this stuff, I immediately go down the list of not just whether or not I look goofy or not, but like, what is my role as a man of color in an organization? How is this going to be perceived? Like, just constantly monitoring that. I feel like, when I was doing my own research for folks who were working the fields, Saturday was the day of play. It was like literally set aside. It was a 1 day off. They got to go to soccer fields. It was where they felt free. These are folks in my community. And just knowing that they had, because they knew what the gaze was and what the expectation on the community was, that they had to set up time and space a way that we can play only in this way at this time. And I'm curious about how you think about who gets to play, and how a womanist approach in particular to play invites more to the table, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I would say my womanist idea of play invites us all to just in general play more and to let down some of that, to let down some of the guard, to let down some of the accessibility to play. But the other part of me also knows that I'm still in the world. And for me, while some of this is some of a hope and a dream, some of it is experience, but some of it is also where I hope we can live into. I also know the reality of what it feels like to be in spaces and to say, okay, I know there's a certain way I have to be, or I'm going to be perceived in a certain way. Or, a couple of years ago, I probably wouldn't have worn my bright color blazer right now because I would have been worried about being seen or something else. But because I am stepping more into that and embracing that more. But I also realized that I've recently, got promoted and gotten tenure at my institution, which also means something different in how I get to show up in power and authority that I get to hold. Whereas I don't know if I felt that when I was just a junior, scholar. And so when I think about this, I think often, especially with play, often it's the Black and brown bodies, it's the differently abled bodies, it's those who choose to live differently bodies. It's all of those bodies that usually don't get to play because they're already being judged, they're already being over hypersexualized, they're already being objectified, they're already being mistreated or harmed. And if you add play to that, then you're really going to be harmed, right? So then it becomes dangerous. And so then it becomes, I can only do this in places where I feel safe enough to do it. And I know that that is still a reality, and I believe that there are still spaces where that is needed and necessary. And I would never want people to play at the risk of their lives, right? Like if you're generally that the dangerous piece of is not. And I think I think I mentioned something in there like if it leads to harm or danger, like that is not what I'm citing. But sometimes we still have to have those spaces that are carved out, right? And until I think the world can be a better place. Until we can all see the benefit of allowing people to be free and play together, then we might have to still have those spaces. And I still feel some of those spaces in my own life. I have two little Black boys, 6 and 3, that are going to be Black men in this world. And even now, I'm like just thinking about when we're going to have some of these conversations about ways you can and can act, or how you can be free here, but you can be free there, or how even kids in your class, they get to make some of these mistakes, but for you, it becomes dangerous, even at 6 already, right? And so that's a reality. And that's why I think some of my book is also just a hope that we can transform the space, so that we can all have this space of freedom, so that it's not just a privilege, right? I think often of your book, actually, The Purpose Gap, and talking about how people get different privileges to be able to dream, to think as if, to wonder, to imagine, to play, to do that, and what it might mean if we open up and make that more expansive. And I do think play is a helpful tool, not the only tool, but a helpful tool for that. But I think some of it is still very hopeful to get us there. And I do think we still need those secret spaces right now.
As you think about those secret spaces, or that we want to expand play, I am going to push, very
Yes.
rarely do I push people to go to a cover of a book, but I am going to, the gift of the cover that's, behind you, the artwork, as you look at it and see what play could be and should be for folks. And yet it's double Dutch with razor wire, razor
Yeah.
wire, like the limitations on play that are that you're talking about throughout the book, and also like trying to play in that context. First, tell us a little bit about the cover of the book, and what you're communicating with that cover. And as you talk about that, I am curious about how that plays out in this question of rules, about who, um, what are the rules that so many of us have to face, that, or what razor wire are we playing
Yeah.
with when we think about play?
Yeah, I know. I love that. I think one of the things I mentioned in the book is I'm like, who's turning your ropes? Who's doing the turning? How are they turning it? And so all of these questions are so important. And that's why I feel like this cover just, I mean, the moment I saw it, and I saw it years before I would ever put it on this book, back when it was just an inkling thought. I had an amazing colleague who I was dreaming about this with, who also happens to be on this call talking to me right now, who was like, hey, you know what you're talking about? You should check out this artist. You should check out his work. I think from what you're saying, this sounds good. And I was just like, okay, I'm gonna check it out. And so I went and I bookmarked it to look at it later, because this was when it was in its super infancy phase. I was like, I didn't know what it was gonna be years ago. And so then I did it, I wrote the book, I sent off like the first kind of iteration. And then this cover came back to my mind. And so luckily I had saved it on my desktop, right? And I went to it and I looked at it and I said, that's it. So this is a piece by Omari Booker. It is called Double Dutch. It is part of his redlining series. So what you do see, as you mentioned, is red razor wire, right? And this complexity of what it means to try to thrive and be in a place that might want you to die. And for me, if that is not double Dutch of what we're doing, trying to play and be free in a world that wants us to die, Patrick, I feel like I'm about to quote the title of your book. Nobody cries when we die, right? Like that is part of our reality as Black and brown bodies in this world, and part of my reality as being a womanist in the academy, doing work of play, doing work of liberation and joy and freedom, and people constantly wanting me not to. Right. But people constantly wanting us not to be free, not to find joy, not to, I mean, and play holds so much. So it can be lament, it can be any of the things, but having space to experience whatever it is we're feeling. And so for me, this picture is that combination of joy with reality of death, all in one picture. It's like this mix of feelings. When you see it, you're like, oh, this is beautiful. And then you're like, oh, that's complex. You're like, oh. And I wanted something that was going to do both, and it was this beautiful image. So definite props to Omari about this, and for this cover. And for me, it's, as you said, it's about the rules. Who can play? who can't play, who's going to get hit by the razor wire. And I talk around the book that this rope was never meant to do anything with us but to hang us historically, right? And so what does it mean that this rope was never meant for us? So we're getting hit by it, we're getting crushed by it. So who is setting the rules? That is not us, because it was not meant for us. Or those who look like me or identify as me. And so for me, what I'm saying is, if we start helping curate what these ropes look like, now we can start setting new rules. We can hopefully start setting new parameters. Hopefully we can start changing new things and shifting new things, so that the rule keepers are not the ones that are not even thinking about certain peoples and certain bodies. And not just the red razor wire that's constantly going to do harm, but can actually move into something that can be more life-giving and flourishing. And I mean, again, hope. I see places and glimmers where I think there are pieces of this happening, but there's still so much work to be done, because there's still lots of rope that is just red razor wire for so many of us.
I mean, the impact of the image,
Yeah.
followed by what I think is, one of the most important kind of updates in the theoretical work, where you take Du Bois and you do the double consciousness.
Or consciousness.
Double Dutch adds a layer of embodiment.
Yeah.
Like, this isn't just me knowing how to move my body, how to find the rhythm, how to survive this moment, and like from the neck up, decision up here in the head. Your theoretical work that you're doing in here, that you add the entire body, that the memorization of play, the way that our bodies move or can't move in spaces. Tell us a little bit about how you go from this I mean, it really is one of the most important updates to that line of thinking, the double consciousness, to a double embodiment. What does it mean to like have this double embodiment? Tell us how you thought through that. Who are your thinking partners for that?
Yeah, thank you. I mean, obviously, Du Bois is my main. I felt that, but even reading that, I felt like, but there's a different embodied piece as a Black woman, and I was like, that no one's giving language to. Like, not only do I have to know these different languages, these different ways of talking and speaking, and especially in the academy, but for me as a Black woman, my body shows up different before I ever open my mouth. Before I can say anything, before I can do anything, you see me, all these beautiful curls. Thank you, mama. All of this goodness, that's what you see. And I don't get that option. I don't get the option to choose what you do or don't. It is there. And so for me, it was always just like, well, what about this next level of like, I have to now do this double work of body, of how I want to show up, what I want to wear, how do I want to be perceived? Knowing that if I wear a certain thing, I mean, we've seen all the things. I mean, you get a Black woman teacher that wears a pencil skirt, she's news the next day, right? Like, we're always being policed, and in respectability politics, all these things that have affected my body as a woman in ways that it never affected my male counterparts, in ways that they never have to think about, or what they're going to show up to teach in. I have a colleague who teaches in J's and a t-shirt. I show up teaching in J's and a t-shirt, and now it's like, oh, that's a choice. And I'm like, it is a choice. Thank you. But all of that policing is part of what happens. And so that's where so much of it was for me. And I mean, and for me, it's bell hooks, right? We're talking about mutuality. We're talking about bringing freedom for the student and the teacher, right? Like, for both of us. Like, I also need to feel good in this space too. And I mean, I'm sorry, me and heels have just never really been great friends. I prefer a sneaker or sometimes I just do, to be my full self. And I'm like, that's what I want. I like a color. I like several, and I want to wear them. But just how I have to move physically through the world is different. And so being able to think about bell hooks, thinking about Intisaki Shange for Color Girls, and thinking about how so much of her stuff was embodied about body and movement. I mean, Toni Morrison, I mean, so many like Black women authors that had so much for me to think about the movement, the body, the clearing space. And I'm like, we have this other level to think about. And so for me, that's really what led me to this double Dutch, double embodiment, because it is just this next level. It's not just the thinking and the language, it's how I have to move and be in a space is very different. And we have to think about that too.
Well, we're going to move in this space, I imagine, in a second here. So I want to say for folks in the Zoom room, Keisha's going to lead us through another practice. We're going to do the practice. We're going to play. and then we're going to have some time for open dialogue, conversation, or questions that you may have for Lakisha about this book. Before we get there to that space, I do want to invite Lakisha just to kind of more generically, as we all go out into our world and talk about a woman's approach to play, and we talk about your book out in the public, give us some language for how we share this. Like when I go back home and it's it's a bunch of Chicano indigenous folks hanging around, tell me how would I explain your work to them? Like saying, hey fam, this is how we think about this is how we should think about play. Give us some language for that.
I love that. Hey fam, I'm trying to think how I would describe this to like my nephews, right? Like who would be like, Tia, what is your book about? Um, and for me, I would just be like, you know what? Making space to be free.
Hmm.
Um, cultivating space for each other through honesty, through through history, through ancestry, and doing that together. Um, and I, I'm trying to think. I feel like one of the other things I would probably say is just remembering that we have creativity within us and it can look like anything.
Man.
And this is just a beginning conversation. This is not the end goal. This is not the guidepost. This is a starting conversation about what might be possible if we have the freedom to play, if we have the freedom to ask the questions, to dig in deeper, and what might be possible when we know that we can be creative and expansive. Yeah, that's
Amazing. I
how
love it. And the best 20 questions I've ever done. So if you
I
got through that. All right. So now I'm going to invite you to invite us to whatever you want.
Okay, so you heard me mention it, but I feel like now we have to go through it. So I'm going to walk us through red light, green light, because I know you're thinking, how would I do this at a staff meeting? So you're welcome in advance. So I'm going to walk us through it. So just like I would, whether we're in person or whether on a screen. So red light, green light. So there are different lights. So the red light is when you stop, right? Full stop. The green light is when you go at kind of your go pace, a pace that you feel like you can go, you can move, do all that. And then your yellow, unlike when you might be in a vehicle and you want to go faster, you're actually going to have a genuine slow, whatever your slow speed feels like for you. Okay. Now, if you want to get up and move, as long as you can still hear my voice and you are not endangering yourself, you are welcome to get up and walk around. I might do that myself just because I feel like I've been sitting a little too long. So you're welcome to do that. If not, you're welcome to find a part of your body and move at that pace. Whether it's your hands, whether you want to tap your foot, whether you want to do a little elbow action, whatever it is, I want you to physically move a part of your body as you are able to with the red, the yellow, and the green. Okay. And then I'm going to throw in some questions for us to think about. And then after that, I'll say, hey, this is also how like you could use this at a staff meeting, right? But first, of course, because we started with self-work, and that's where I always think we should go when we're doing this kind of work, is starting with our internal stuff. I'm going to start with some internal questions first as you're thinking and reflecting. All right. So deep breath in, let it out. Again, you are welcome in advance. So let's do our quick practice round. Let me see a green light. Where's your green light? What's your green light? Lovely, lovely, lovely. Okay. And red light? Okay. So we all remember. Wonderful. Okay. So I'm going to stand up and I'm going to move this with me just because my body needs to stand. And I invite you to do whatever feels good for you and your body right now. All right. So let's go and make sure you're just listening deeply while you keep moving your body until I move you to the next light. Green light. All right. So where are you at a green light in your life? Where do you feel like things are just going beautifully? They are amazing. You are flourishing. That garden is watered. You are doing all the things. And then red light. Where have you been stopped? And why? Who stopped you? Did you stop yourself? And why? What does it feel like to be stopped when you felt like you were thriving? And green light. How does it feel to go again after you've been stopped? Was there hesitation? Was there doubt? Are you going as vigorously as you once were? And how does that feel to you? Do you feel like you've shifted purpose in direction in your green? And what might that look and feel like? Red light. What might you be able to notice in the red after spending time in the green? Did the green feel sustainable? Does the red feel welcome? What might you need to shift or change before you move to the next light? Yellow light. What might you be able to see or experience or think about in yellow that you can't do at a red or a green? What might you be invited to consider differently? What might you realize is no longer serving you? What might you realize you need to add? What might you realize needs to shift or to change? What relationships might need to shift? What might not be serving you again in the way that you need it right now in this season that you can see and adjust in the yellow that you can't in the green or the red? And green light. How does it feel to go to the green after you've had space in a yellow? Does it feel better? Are you able to go faster when you realize what you can let go, what might need to go, and where you might be going in a different way? Where still feels like thriving? Is it new? Is it different? Does it feel better after having some space in the yellow? And red light. Wonderful. Give yourself a hand. Well done. Thank you. Thank you. So for me, that is one way we can really get in touch with ourselves, right? Taking yourself through the lights. Where are you at a green? My hope is that as you were doing it physically, you were thinking of actual places where you are thriving, actual places where you're stopped, actual places where I need more time in the yellow. Some people feel a lot of tension in the yellow because they're like, I don't like to just be still. I don't like to slow down. And yet, what can we learn there, right? What do we learn is no longer serving us, right? And again, when you're doing it in this playful way, it's so low stakes, like things bubble up, they come up for you. And then you're thinking, okay, it was low stakes, but now this is turning real. So now what do you do with that? When you realize that something is no longer serving you, with churches, this also turns into a lot of, again, if we're doing this at staff meeting, what might need to die so something else can grow? And how can we ritualize it in a beautiful way to say that served its purpose and its time and it was wonderful and great. And now we have this other space that we're moving into, right? So at staff meetings, for me, it turns into, okay, where's this project? Are we at a green, a red, a yellow with this? Okay. And what do we need to move it to a red? Or what do we need to move it to a yellow? We need some people, we need it, right? And so then it doesn't become so personalized. It doesn't become us attacking. It becomes us talking about this thing, right? Play helps us have so much of that language in a really playful way. And then we do red light, green light, like, well, where else are we feeling it? Right? It becomes personal. We can make it communal. We can do so much with it, but it's that body mind connection where we can make a lot of those connections and synapses that we might not make otherwise until we're moving and thinking together. So thank you all for green light, red light, green light with me. And now feel free to use it. Now that you've done it, you can now use it. These are not games that are horrible or I just made them up. We know about all of these things. So all of this is accessible to you. I am not reinventing anything. I'm just offering intentionality. I'm offering space. And you can do all of that, right? With these games, with the things that are already accessible to us. So thank you for red light, green light. If there were any aha moments for you or anything, even just through the course of that, please feel free to drop it in the chat. I would love to know. Because you never know what bubbles up for folks when we do things like that. So staff meeting, vocational discernment, reflection, any of those kinds of things, this really lends to if you're making a decision, if you're making it really helps to do that mind-body connection. And if a red light, green light helps, it might be something to add in to your repertoire. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Grateful for that. We're going to move into questions. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the recording so that way we can do it. I'm going to unspotlight Dr. Lockhart and myself so we can have intimate conversation with this small group. And then we'll wrap up. We have about 20 minutes for these sets of questions.